Hey there, everybody. I wanted to take a moment this morning on my morning drive to touch base and talk a little bit about some things that, I always try to keep everything like right where I'm at, what's happening in my moment, because it's been proven over and over again that, for those of us who are out here leading at the forefront and coaches, educators, practitioners, speakers, that when we keep things right there at the front of where we're at, that often many people that are in our midst and our following are also in that same space. And recently, as I was trying to come up, I was like, God, had my morning conversation with God, like, what am I talking about today? And the topic of death definitely is on the forefront of my mind, and just kind of a space that I'm in. And I'm going to get into that here. I was thinking about it. Here we are at January, and it seems that every winter, the winter months, can be harsh in the concept around death, because a lot of people pass away. There's a lot of just much like the trees losing all their leaves, the grass is turning gray and going dormant. There is also that same experience that happens with our actual lives, with people in our lives, with souls, I'll put that in our lives, and that we have this crossing point. So recently there's been quite a few deaths since summer, just random deaths from family, friends, lots of stuff that's kind of taken place over the last few months with people passing. And not that this may be a big deal to many people, but as some of you know, I know some of my clients know, and close friends, my family dog of 12 years or whatever, our boxer Phoebe, she passed away about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I guess it's already been. She passed away, and just had a really bad week, got really, really sick, and her soul decided that it was no longer time to be here with us. So there was that transition point. And then, as you guys know, I was gone for the week to Tahoe, and my puppy, everybody knows how I've joked around about giving her away and all this different stuff. Well, she jumped the fence while I was gone. She was staying at my daughter's house, jumped the fence, and got hit by a car. And she has now passed. So here I am, dogless this morning, like really getting settled with the fact that I have no pets right this very minute, which is where life is. I mean, having children, I've always had pets of some nature, cat or dog. Right now I have a little finch. I don't count the finch as a pet. But it was making me think not so much about the actual loss of the creatures in my life or the family or friends that have passed over the course of the last 4 months, but more on the point of what death really is. Many years ago, my youngest two's dad, when we first met, we met at a Starbucks, and we sat at Starbucks for like 3 hours talking, and it was raining outside. I'll never forget the day. It was pouring outside, and Starbucks finally closed, and it was like, you guys have to leave. But he taught me this beautiful exploration tale, and it really showed how we human beings process through different things in our life, what means a lot to us, what may not mean a lot to us, how we process the different things such as our spirituality, what really is true about our hearts. And the final topic in the little experiential tale that he walked me through was focused on death. Little did I know, he was just having me paint him a story, and then he dissected it, translated it, and shared with me its meaning. At the end of this tale, you're walking along this path, and some of my clients are familiar with this because I've done this with them just to give kind of like an overview of stuff for them. But at the end of the path, you go along this path, and there's different things that you experience and do and everything. And at the end of the path, you come up to a wall. And I remember him asking me, you're on your path, you turn around, you're looking down the path, there's a wall. And I remember looking at this wall and going, no, there isn't. There's not a wall. And he's like, yeah, there's a wall there. And I'm like, no, there isn't a wall there. I said, well, there's some like old rubble, some bricks, I guess, and stones laying across the path, but I can see my path and there's just this rubble there. And he's like, well, how hard is it to get through, to go around, climb over, whatever? And I said, well, I can just walk right through it. It's not a big deal at all. Like, my path is right there. I can see, and the path goes down the way and into the wood. And he's like, oh, well, that's interesting. He's like, never have I experienced somebody saying that. Normally, and I have in years, over the last decade of using this same tale with different people and experience, a lot of people, when they do come up against this wall, they see this wall as this massive brick wall. I've had people talk about, chain link fence or fences that have lots and lots of locks on them, something that they can't get over, can't go under, can't go around, that they have to find some passageway through, but it's difficult, it's a challenge. Mine was not that way. Mine was just keep moving. It's all part of the process, and life goes on. I didn't see any issue with it. That wall that he was depicting in this tale is death, and how we look at death, how we process death, and how we, really can move through that mourning process and the process of death. So that says a lot about my characteristics. I don't know, probably something in the way I grew up. Maybe I'm an old soul. I have no idea. Whatever it means, it means. But the gist of it is that psychologically, I, for one, don't look at death in the harsh terms of certainty that this is an end. I look at it as though it is a gateway. It is not even that. It is just part of the journey of this thing that we call life. And we kind of look at life as though it is just when our lungs are working, our hearts are beating, our brains are working, blood is pumping through. To me, death, and what I know that a lot of ancient spiritual teachings talks about, death is just a birth gateway into a new realm of existence, into a new expansion of self. We get caught up on the permanency of not having a physical body, at least not being able to remember having a physical body, and not knowing what is on the other side of this gateway. I was thinking about it while I was in California. I was talking to my ex-mother-in-law, Grandma and Grandpa. I was talking to Grandma, and she said something, because my oldest daughter, she's been with her guy for 6 or 7 years now, and they're still not married, and they have a baby and a house and a car and all the gizmos, right, of a married couple, but they're not married. And Grandma was saying, well, maybe they shouldn't get married because, marriage changes. And I was like, yeah, marriage does change things. She's like, yeah. She's like, when Grandpa and I got married, it changed it because I guess it was the permanency of it. And I was thinking, a lot of the times we joke around about, marriage being like death, like, oh, it's all over now. It's, it's over. And what is it? It's the permanency factor that gets us. And anything that we find such permanency around, we feel a death with. We feel this contraction around. We have a fear around stepping into the permanency of stuff, because we are, at our core, our human nature is about change, is about expansion, is about growth. I was talking to somebody just the other day, and he was telling me that he watched an interview or something with Shakira, and that Shakira has been with her boyfriend for quite some time, and they're not married, and she doesn't ever want to get married, really. And she was saying that she doesn't want to get married because she wants to remain the desirable girlfriend. So, what is it? Desire. And I do a lot of desire-based talking and coaching and teaching, because our desire is one of the things that we push away and we ignore, right? And Shakira's statement of, I want to remain the desirable girlfriend, and if I become the wife, I'm afraid I will no longer be desired. There again, we have the permanency factor. Once we have permanency, we tend to, the energy dissipates around it, and there is a fear, there's a contraction, there's a holding there that we're not turned on to. So is it death that we fear, or is it the permanency concept that we fear, because we experience death in so many areas of our life. But what if we were to look at death and anything that we perceive with this permanency factor, not as something that is a closure, as an end point, but as a transition point, something that is actually leading us to expansion, leading us to a new aspect of living, of experience, of new potential, of new awakening, new depths inside ourselves. What if we started looking at it like that? Even right down to actual physical death happening with our loved ones, or us facing our own mortality in different situations, all that kind of stuff. What if we started looking at death from a different concept? Many teachings, including the Bible, we talk about ascension. We talk about, going to heaven or to hell. We talk about past lives, the great, being spread out into the universe and becoming part of the great consciousness of all things. Depending on whatever belief structure you might have, most belief structures believe that there is something more than this physical existence, that we have a soul, that our soul is something that is of a higher frequency, you could say, and part of the greater scope of everything, a piece of the divine. Wouldn't it make sense that anytime we experience this feeling of permanency, this feeling of death, that what we are actually doing is just tapping a little bit more into the divine, into an aspect of the divine, that we are learning about new creation potential within this feeling of contraction? Remember that everything that contracts also expands, and everything that expands must contract. We have that ebb and flow. That pendulum always swings from side to side. So is it possible that even in the state of death, even with the state of death, whether it is the death of a job, the death of a relationship, the physical death of something, the death of, of just the experiences of one thing and moving into a new aspect of something else. If you look at it, all the little micro deaths that we have, what if hold on just a second. What if it was a really weird thing that just went by? I was like, what the heck is that? What if we actually just were birthing a new concept of self? What if we were just birthing a whole new concept of self? And that's what that was. That it was really, truly just a new concept being born. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about it in different areas of your life. Where are you allowing the birth of yourself to not really form because you're fearful of your death? Oh, shit. My battery's dying, people. My battery's dying. Okay. I will be back. My battery's going to go dead. So I'm going to say, stop existing, start living. I will catch you tomorrow.